Anyways, the activist that went through that,
I don't know.
Yeah, but he's tip of my tongue. Anyway, yeah. I do know about that
So
decision.
they have decided this fall season, or I guess outside of the lobster season, to start a moderate livelihood lobster fishing off of Yarmouth somewhere down Digby area. And the local fishers are freaking out on it. They're taking their boats out. There's a lot of harassment. It's like a standoff right now. It's one of these standoffs we have from time to time. And and it's just unfortunate because, and then you see, so lots of people are posting about it, and there were some very interesting numbers that were showing just on the enormously small impact of what they're trying to do is compared to the total impact of that overall industry. But people are passionate about it, and that one's, boy howdy, look at that. Anyways, it's what they need there is for people to get out of the way. What the problem there is that everybody's freaking out over a non-consequential action on principle because they're all worried because it's super big business. I mean, it's lobsters, right? So that's 10% of Nova Scotia's GDP.
Well, it's let's farm more of them. We can't farm them.
Yeah, like I think lobsters are our biggest contributor to GDP.
Yeah, I think we had looked that up earlier this summer.
Just to say that people are extremely protective around that, and it's big stakes. So I sort of get why they're trying to do clearly people are extremely concerned about precedent setting, and which must be entirely what this is about. And that's a point of view. I mean, that's a perspective. Economy is a complex thing that needs to be intentionally considered. And if your livelihood is being directly challenged or something, as maybe those fishers are feeling, especially in terms of precedents, not in terms of the 250 traps that they're setting, or just because our whole world right now is based on figuring out how to be diametrically opposed to something, and the only way to be relevant and have value is to have an opposition, and so everything needs to be turned into a form of opposition, and this is a topic. I don't know. But it all seems like the whole thing is just an exercise in not listening, and really all they're saying is, we just want to be able to get back to fishing the way that we've always done, and we can't figure out how to do other livelihoods, so just let us do this one like you said we could. You said this 21 years ago. We're trying to figure out how to do it, and everybody's always blocked us on all of our non-controversial attempts. So now we're just like, fuck it, like that cannabis on the side of the road. We're just figuring it out. We're going to do it this time. We're tired of you guys telling us that we don't know how to do shit. Every time you come and tell us that we don't know how to do shit, you come and do the wrong thing in its place, and we're tired of it. And we're going to do it ourselves, and they're right to. Especially if they can do it responsibly and figure out how to do it within their own balance and to make it sustainable. Fucking good luck to them.
From what I know of the fishermen around here, not here, in Antigonish, that's a very dangerous game they're playing, and I'm good that they're taking their stand.
Yeah. Well, that's it. So then, that's what some of these numbers were, which is why I feel it can't be specifically about those lobster fishermen in that place. It must be a precedent-setting thing. Because the traps were like, they are trying to set 250 traps, which I don't know how that fits in but of the total Nova Scotia traps, it's in like the tens of thousands or something.
Okay,
so orders of magnitude in the difference, definitely.
That's right.
And of which the biggest one is just this one company, Clearwater. So, it's right and good to have these debates, but it always ends up being all the criticism. One of the great indicators of this is another old adage, but the way to figure out who has power over you is just to figure out who you can't criticize, right? And that's a great example of how clearly the people who have the most power there are Clearwater, and nobody can really criticize them. And so these other fishermen who are having to come up against whatever that giant, enormously powerful actor is in that field, also have tension and difficulty and strain, and have been going through this crisis and are looking at a bleaker and bleaker future of talking about economic recession and how the fishing industry is just constantly drying up around us, and probably because there's bigger players that keep coming in and taking out all the small corners, and that focuses you deeper and deeper into a tighter neck. But you can't criticize those guys because they're the one that pay the premium salary or however it works, and they're all the taxes, or why ever it's so important for us to have big company versions of those instead of small company versions. But it means that all the small company versions then have to pit themselves against, they need a win. They're struggling, so they need to pit themselves against somebody who they can pit themselves against. And along comes the First Nations saying, we're going to try this. We want to put out 250 traps and see if we can do lobster fishing all season and see if that can bring some good, solid, contributing purpose to our community and get us into a way that we can self-determine our destiny. Which, in a macro way, I think we love. That would be awesome. But in the practical consideration, these other guys end up in a spot where they can't criticize the Clearwater, so but they need to get this energy out. They're also struggling. They're also fighting against a government trying to say we got to be able to fish, or don't restrict that, or quotas here, or whatever. It's just people looking out for their own corner, which we want them to do, because that's the way our whole system works. If they don't look out for their own corner, nobody's going to look out for their corner. But if it means that they can only fight against other people who are also trying to and have a bout like scraps, and then have the other big guys doing these massive volumes on the side of it, it's just so unequatable.